All right, let's go ahead and get started. We have a great group today, and I'm really excited about this topic. I hope you guys are too, because it's hopefully going to lay out a plan for you, working out towards the next Colorado Gives Day and everything in between. So today we're talking about beyond Colorado Gives Day. So how to use your data to plan what's next for your organization. Just a quick reminder here, folks, that this webinar is being recorded, and we will send the recording and the slide deck to you after this webinar. Please give us about 48 hours, so expect it around Thursday. And please remain on mute and use that Zoom chat because we have Katie online as well from Colorado Gives Foundation, and she'll be capturing all those questions for us. Of course, if you have any technical questions about coloradogives.org, the first place to start is always support@coloradogives.org. And then as far as the recording disclaimer, we are not exposing any private information, and we are not, unless otherwise indicated, showing anybody that's real or data that's representative of a nonprofit. So we make sure to do that, especially in these types of webinars. Hi, I'm Jordan. I feel like I've probably met with, or I feel like I know all of you, but I am the Nonprofit Success Manager for coloradogives.org. And my little pep talk here before we dive into the data is that no matter the size of your nonprofit, because we've seen them all succeed, you can be successful at online giving. You just need to use your data thoughtfully so you're not spending time on things that don't make sense or don't create revenue, and setting those campaign goals. All right, so I wanted to insert this here before we dive in. When we're talking about setting campaign goals, I think it's important to know how important those goals are, both internal and then public-facing goals for your different fundraising campaigns, your events throughout the year. Those all can be digital fundraising campaigns. Nonprofits that set specific fundraising goals before campaigns are 60% more likely to have success and reach their fundraising goals versus those who don't. So just setting the goals gets you 60% of the way there, which is amazing. So just wanted to remind everybody that as we're going through all these things you can do, your nonprofit's going to have your own goals for what you want to achieve this year, what you have the capacity to do. So this is hopefully helping you guide and focus on some of the goals that will bring you the most revenue and best relationships with your donors. All right, so for today, we are talking about donor retention. We are talking about Colorado Gives Day 2025. So what is the data telling us? We'll focus on 3 fundraising priorities for 2026. And then we'll dive in at the end there and take a look at the actual reporting tool to surface any additional questions that we might have in the Q&A. All right. So I wanted to pause here and ask everybody just up front in a poll, which of the following best describes your organization's next fundraising priority? We're trying to get a feel for what you all are focusing on this year, what's important to you, so we can continue to create great resources and webinars. Katie, if you'll go ahead and enable that poll when you are ready. So is your focus recurring giving? Maybe it's lapsed or new campaigns. It's okay if you're not sure yet, because that's what this webinar is for, to start getting those wheels turning. Amazing. A lot of people are growing their recurring donor program, launching a new campaign. Amazing. Looks like the winner is growing the recurring donor program. Well, you're going to be happy about today's content. Also, launching a new campaign or event. I'm talking to a lot of nonprofits who are leveraging coloradogives.org and the event pages specifically to drive more donations leading up to and after their in-person events. All right. Let's go ahead and end that poll. The winner is the recurring donor program, followed by increasing donor retention, as well as launching a new campaign or event. Awesome. Thank you, guys. That really gives us a pulse on what you're focusing on. National Donor Retention Crisis. I realized this morning, gosh, we have so much crisis going on. Maybe I shouldn't have used that word. I don't want to alarm you, but both national numbers as well as data from our state, from coloradogives.org, are reflecting a few trends that we need to pay attention to. So, first of all, and I think we all know this, retention rates are alarmingly low. So about 40 to 45% of donors are giving again. And then for first-time donors, which a lot of you get during Colorado Gives Day, fewer than 1 in 5 return. So 1 in 5 give again. Where did those other 4 people go? We want to fix that for you and help you to kind of write your fundraising so that you're keeping people coming back at a higher rate. Another growing, this is a growing trend. It's been declining for years. So that means that nonprofits have to work harder. You guys have to work harder to maintain your revenue. Nonprofits spend a lot of time acquiring new donors, and they spend more time than they do on keeping existing one, which lowers returns. So your capacity, your energy versus the output is not equal right now. And it's a big cost for losing these donors. Every lost donor, you can call it a lost lifetime value if you think about it that way. It also cuts off your ability to potentially lead towards major gifts, recurring donations, or advocacy. And then when you guys have to constantly every year fill in the gap for those missing donors, it's an expensive fundraising treadmill that you just keep going around. So why does this all matter? It matters for sustainability. This type of crisis that we're seeing, or alarming trends, let's call it, this threatens your long-term financial health and all of your program stability. And I think you guys even experienced some of that with the huge shifts in federal funding, how sustainability has to be top priority for your organization. So without considering things like retention, repeating donors, monthly givers, recurring donors, and major donors, you're going to struggle to grow and sustain. And so that's what we're talking about today. So if you take a look at your current fundraising plan, a lot of what we're seeing and the trends that are coming from the data is that there is an overemphasis on new donor acquisition, on getting that donor in for the first time. But then there's minimal follow-up or personalization. So a lot of nonprofits I talk to just send out the blast newsletter. That's not enough. And so there are definitely a lot of different paths you can take to communicate and increase retention. But it doesn't stop at the thank you email, and it doesn't stop at the newsletter. And then, of course, low retention for first-time donors. So in addition to bringing people back, if you're getting a lot of first-time donors just naturally based on how your nonprofit's fundraising, make a plan for how to bring them back. How to open that door for them so they can walk through with that second gift. And then, of course, this is all a missed opportunity for nonprofits. So we want you to be sustainable. We want you to grow your capacity as well as your revenue, the number of sustainers and supporters. So again, we should be focusing not only on one-time donations, but these other types of gifts to provide you a higher lifetime value, right? So the donor can show all the love and be introduced and then dedicated to your nonprofit. All right. So when we're thinking about retention strategy, it varies by donor type. And so when you're focusing on first-time donors, like I mentioned, little value and high acquisition cost, which I think everybody knows, when compared to recurring, major, and repeat donors. So take a look at this graph down here. Retention rate for first time, 19 to 23. Second time or repeat donors, 45 to 50%. Recurring monthly and major or high dollar donors retain at 70 to 80, 70 to 90. I saw some varying numbers, but they retain much higher than first time or even repeat donors. So this may allow you to shift or create some new fundraising goals this year and really focus on how you are supporting these different types of donors. So with that, what we would love to see you focus on for 2026, and not just for Colorado Gives Day, but for the entire year, of course, on coloradogives.org or on whatever fundraising platform you use, we want you to focus on donor retention. Because if you're increasing donor retention by even 5%, that could increase your revenue by 25 to 95%. That's insane. Monthly giving, we want you to be asking people and upselling first-time donors so that they set up a recurring gift. Now, we help you out a lot on Colorado Gives Day because one of the incentives we provide is a match for anybody setting up a new recurring gift. Monthly donors, high retention versus those one-time donors. And then major giving. A lot of times when I'm chatting with nonprofits, they just let the major gifts come in as they will, and I want to see you be a little less passive about major giving because it is a cycle. It is a timeline that you can take certain donors through to help them evolve and to give your nonprofit more support. And then as a bonus, I wanted to make sure we also include matching grants. Now, you can only do so much in a year. So the top three are really the most revenue generating. But that fourth option, matching grants, is also a great avenue for boosting your online fundraising campaigns. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. Not every nonprofit has the opportunity to identify matching grants, but if you do, it's a powerful tool that you can set up on Colorado Gives to drive more donations. All right, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. All right, hope everybody has their beverage of choice. So let's chat a little bit and dig into what happened on Colorado Gives Day. So what are the insights from the data from our wonderful statewide Giving Day? Now, I'll preface this with, gosh, there is so much interesting data that I could have shared. What we're going to look at today is based on revenue, so how much money you raised. And when we looked at it by donors, we saw some mostly similar trends. And so when we're looking at the information today, if you have any questions about the sources or more information about the data, let's talk after the webinar because I'm happy to share more information. All right. So at a high level for Colorado Gives Day 2025, you guys raised $56.6 million from November 1st through December 9th. This year, Colorado Gives Day is November 1st through December 8th. And so we are really excited, but we want to do preparation with you before we get right to the giving day and start asking donors. And highlights across Colorado Gives, so year-round, nonprofits raised $87 million towards their causes and their mission and to do more good. So we are seeing some incredible progress. Other exciting things to note for both timelines, average raised for a nonprofit during Colorado Gives Day, $12.2 thousand. Amazing. That's the average campaign. Now, if you look at year-round, the people who are leveraging the platform year-round, they're raising an average of $18K around the year. So the more activity you're doing, the more you're leveraging coloradogives.org, or at least this is how I interpret it. The more money, the more familiarity you have and your donors have with the platform. All right, let's take a quick peek at year-over-year growth. It's mostly green, which is always good. So unique donor count. We're in the green, up almost 9% for unique donors giving to Colorado Gives Day. This is a big one that I had to do a second take on before I shared it with you today. IRA, donor advised fund, wire, and stock gifts, they're up almost 52%, meaning that this is a big way that people want to give back, and it's built into the coloradogives.org platform. Number of donors increase, almost 8.7. Number of donations, almost 6% increase. And here's another big one. Number of recurring gifts set up, 14.5% increase. Amazing. I think just as we are leaning in and realizing how important those monthly gifts are, you guys are doing the same. And of course, a lot of that also is reflective of the $250,000 for Colorado Gives Day that we provide to match someone who's setting up a new monthly gift. So overall, what can we say about this? More people are giving, and high impact gifts are growing, which is true. And there's also an opportunity to increase recurring or larger gift amounts to balance the slight decrease, right, of the average donation size. So the average donation dollar amount decreased. So we're seeing more people show up, but we're seeing them give a little bit less. And that is why retention, recurring gifts, and major gifts are going to be really important to make sure you're targeting this year to help balance out the national trend of donors giving less on average. Overall growth, what we saw, 3.66%. Number of donors, almost 9%. Number of nonprofits receiving donations, it was up again, almost 8%. So all great signals. And some of our trends surpass and are much better than national trends, and some very much follow national trends as far as fundraising. So despite all this growth, average and median donations per nonprofit declined. So we need more we are seeing more participation, but smaller amounts donated per organizations. And so that should give you some insight into where you want to spend your time. Recurring giving was an exciting increase this year. And we saw that median organizations had the highest growth. Small organizations for Colorado Gives Day had a decline. And then large organizations, they maintain stability. So depending on what your size is, take a look at what you can achieve. Set your goals for year-round fundraising based on the achievable internal and public-facing goals that you want to set. Colorado Gives Day by the numbers. So let's take a look at the timeline, which I thought was really interesting. So we're going November 1st through the 30th. So the month of November, we saw a huge surge in early giving. So for all of you out there waiting to ask people until Giving Tuesday or Colorado Gives Day, stop doing that, because you have an opportunity from November 1st all the way to Colorado Gives Day to ask people to give, to ask people to set up those monthly gifts or send in that IRA or donor advised fund gift. And so early giving surged. It's up 20%. That's pretty amazing. So when we look at December, so December 1st through Gives Day, we see that donor count grew, great, 4.8%. And then Gives Day itself also saw an increase, 2.1% increase, and larger average gifts. So Colorado Gives Day, the actual 24-hour event, is when a lot of people feel inspired to give that larger gift. So leverage that. Post-event giving grew, yep, that's right, 24%, which is amazing. And I think it signals to us that people aren't done giving after Colorado Gives Day. They want to continue interacting with you. They want those warm, fuzzy thank yous, and they want to give again. So don't count the people from Colorado Gives Day out for your year-end campaign. Those are the people showing up and most recently showing up for you. So some insights we can gain from that, and I might have talked about a few already, but engaging early, right? We want you to take to leverage that momentum that happens from November 1st through the month. Maximizing giving day. So making sure you're targeting these different types of donors throughout the timeline, and then especially high value or major donors leading up to Colorado Gives Day. We can sustain your donors and continue your fundraising after the event too. So don't let it stop on Colorado Gives Day or the day after when we announce the prizes. And then here, simple and straightforward, but oftentimes, challenging to implement. We want you to monitor who you're communicating to and tailoring the messages. It doesn't have to be crazy, but major givers are going to want to be talked to a bit differently than one-time donors or recurring donors or monthly donors. And then we're promoting recurring giving. So again, you don't necessarily want this to be a membership program because there's a lot of things that can come with that, a lot of value that the donor can interpret if you call something a membership program. So instead, I want you to be focusing on a monthly giving or recurring giving program for all of your donors and supporters. All right, Giving Tuesday, big splash on Giving Tuesday again. In 2024, we saw an increase of 40%. Wow. People really jumped to it in 2024. And so we saw incremental change, almost 8% in 2025 as far as year-over-year growth, just for Giving Tuesday. So nonprofits are still leveraging the momentum of Giving Tuesday, the messaging of Giving Tuesday, but they're tying it to Colorado Gives Day and coloradogives.org. We are seeing, like we've said, but we are seeing nonprofits raise more when they have a match. So maybe a match isn't attainable this year and it's a 2027 thing, but you've got a lot of time in 2026 to identify a major donor or business that could grant you a match. What we see here is that nonprofits with a match, they raised $36,000 per their organization. Those without a match raised less than $10,000. So that's an increase of $26,000 just for implementing and rewarding your donors by securing a match. So something to think about, something to put in your goals or your wish list for this year, to manifest and to pinpoint who might be a good matching grant sponsor. Returning donors are also time well spent. So when we take a look at Colorado Gives Day metrics on new donors versus returning donors, it's significantly different. New donors are giving less than $300, right? $273. And they're giving about 1.3 donations, so around one donation per nonprofit. Returning donors, their average gift is almost $700. Huge difference. And they're giving to multiple, they're making multiple donations on the platform. Over three donations. So what does this mean? Of course, in revenue speak, new donors are giving, that 11 number, right? 11 million, while returning donors are giving $44 million. So again, shifting your priorities, making some new goals this year to focus on these different donor types. All right. And so I won't read every bit of this, but the long and the short of it is the key donor insights. we're seeing that returning donors, they drive the majority of the revenue. And that doesn't mean new donors aren't critical for growth, okay? I'm not hating on the new donors. We love them. They're at the beginning of the funnel. But what we need to do is customize messaging and welcome them in with communication so that they do come back. Donor segmentation matters. And so how you're looking at your different, what I call buckets of people, really matters and tailors your fundraising and specific messaging, and it will improve your fundraising results. All right, let's chat about your 3 fundraising priorities for 2026, which will look very similar to what we've been chatting about. I wanted to pause. Katie, was there any questions or things that came up before I move forward?
Yes, I've got a couple questions in here. The first one is everyone getting donors internally? I'm curious how you get new donors who may not even know about your org.
Yep. And what we're saying is yes, people are getting new donors from websites, from outreach, from events, from whatever's in your calendar, right? But we're saying to shift that mindset so that you're welcoming those donors in who are new, of course, you don't want to block them, but you want to shift your mindset to make sure you're bringing returning donors back because that is where the larger value lies. So it's a balancing act of not only getting new donors in at the top of the funnel, wherever that might be, subscriptions, like I said, live events, sponsorships, anything like that. That is where you're getting at the top of the funnel, all the donors in. So that's definitely a strategy to pay attention to. But today, what we're focusing on is getting those first time donors from Colorado Gives Day in 2025 to come back in 2026 throughout your year and throughout your campaigns. Whoever that was, happy to talk further though about kind of the top of the funnel and new donor acquisition. We definitely have some resources on that as well. Thank you.
Next question we got is what are the raw numbers behind the 52% increase in IRA, DAF, and wires?
Sure. I'm happy to share that with you. I won't flash it probably today in front of the screen because I don't have it prepared. But it's comparing 2025, those types of what we call external payments versus 2024. And so we're seeing a huge increase. If you guys remember in 2024, right? Well, probably in October or September of 2024, we released the built-in IRA, donor advised fund, and wire options into the checkout flow. And so it's been plugging along for about 2 years now. And we're really seeing people adopt. And also with the shift in economy, seeing a lot more people be willing to or need to, give gifts with an IRA or a donor advised fund. But yep, happy to connect with you one-on-one to share more details there.
And then we had a couple people wondering, does it matter the size of the match? How do we know how much to look for?
That's a great question. So I think it's first and foremost always looking at your buckets of people and your board's buckets of people and who your board works for, because the main people to target for a matching grant are someone who's already given you a large gift, maybe in 2025, and you say, "Hey, Bill, it's 2026. Can we leverage the anticipated donation that you're giving for a match?" Or maybe it's a local business sponsor that maybe last year they gave you $5,000 for a catering event. This year, you are going to see so much return if you use that $5,000 to set up a match. And so I don't know if it really matters the size of the match. Obviously, big matches are great, but sometimes it's odd. If you're a tiny organization and got $100,000 match, that's a lot of money that maybe you haven't ever presented in front of your donors before. So you can definitely chop up a match if it's a big amount, or maybe if it's a small amount, it kicks off or it unlocks after 500 donors. So anyway, there's definitely some different strategies that you can apply. So in short, I don't think the amount matters. It's just how you market it.
And then last question is, we had a lot of Colorado Gives Foundation referral codes show up in our data. Is it possible for you all to share the referral codes you used for different promotions? We'd love to know what promotion channels you are using so we can optimize on our end.
Yeah, sure. So again, I'll connect with you directly only because I don't have that information in a pretty form today. But yes, happy to share more information about, strategy from our marketing team for statewide channels. All right, I'm going to keep going. Is that okay? I know we have some other. Um, oh, how do we connect one-on-one? Says Alina. Um, I will. Katie, are you able to drop in my scheduling link?
Yes, let me dig around for it and then I'll put
Okay,
it in the
yeah.
chat.
I forgot to have it on hand today. But yes, we can schedule a 30 or 1 hour call, virtual call. And then of course, there's lots of resources that can help support you too. Awesome. Thank you guys for being so engaged. We love it. Um, three fundraising priorities for 2026. Looks familiar? This is what we're going to talk about in a bit more detail. All right. We're talking and we're here today to talk about reporting. So, to kick things off on this subject, I want to remind everybody that you have access to 4 built-in reports on coloradogives.org. As long as you're an admin of your organization page, you can access your all donations report, your recurring donations report, an offline donations report. So some nonprofits use Colorado Gives year round, and they want to record offline gifts that are coming through as well as online for a more holistic reporting view. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, you have a built-in retention report. Bam, you can hop off this call and immediately see who has not come back from Colorado Gives Day 2024 to 2025. And so these are really important resources for you at, available at a couple clicks. So let's quickly just take a look at retention reporting. So you have built-in retention reports, but if you were to do this with an Excel, you are always downloading the full donations report from coloradogives.org. You're grouping donations by donor. You're identifying the different types of donors. And then, most importantly, step 4, we're doing this because we want to welcome and introduce the mission and the background to first time donors. Let's welcome them in. Hello. With repeat donors regarding retention, we want to deepen that engagement. Thank you so much, Donna, for coming back again every year for the past 3 years, whatever that is. Show the impact of her consistent love and support. And then for lapsed donors, we want to reconnect. We want to invite them back. I would go maybe no more than 2 or 3 years back, because as you go back every year, you get a lower retention rate from all those lapsed folks. When you're looking at monthly donor reporting, again, you already have that built-in report in Colorado Gives, but if you were to be using an Excel document downloaded from coloradogives.org, with monthly donations, there's unique identifiers with all donations in coloradogives.org. We identify a unique donor by email address. In your full downloadable report Excel file, you also have access to a donor ID, which you can use as the unique identifier. You have the ability within your Excel to immediately see and filter for monthly, aka recurring gifts in your spreadsheet. So that's a really easy one. Just seeing who's recurring, who's not recurring, or excuse me, who's monthly and who's not monthly. And why are we doing this? We're doing this for outreach to new monthly donors, welcome and confirmation to existing monthly donors, send updates and impact stories so they continue to support or maybe even upgrade their recurring gift. And then lapsed monthly donors. Again, you're connecting, you're inviting to rejoin from a few years back to see if you can recover some of that lost revenue. So again, just a reminder, and we'll see this in person here in a sec, but built-in reports make it really easy for you to, whether you're doing it on a monthly or weekly basis, check in on any of the fundraising activity and retention, both from Colorado Gives Day and your year-round activity. And then, of course, the other thing we're talking about is major donors and reporting for major donors. Um, so, of course, again, downloading that report from coloradogives.org to see your full donor data. Then you have to set a threshold. So take a look at who's donating what. That gives you an idea of what the average gift might be, what the highest gift might be, what the lowest gift might be, and it will likely get you to a threshold for your major donors. And major donors for a large organization may be 10,000, but major donors for a small or medium organization may be 2,000. So anyway, that's the most important part of identifying um, major donors, those who have given, or maybe those who you haven't welcomed in yet in a customized way from 2025. So definitely make sure you're chopping and slicing your data to take a look at who is a potential major donor and who is a current major donor that needs to be welcomed and thanked and needs to feel like their gift is part of a legacy and the sustainability of your organization. And last here, bonus, matching grants. So because matching grants are so powerful, we have the visual matching grant feature that you can use on your organization page and any fundraising pages. You can set up a match. And then you can also report on that match. So you can see a donation report as well as a summary report of how your match did over the timeline that you set it. And so there is accessible built-in reporting for you to see all of these different aspects, which is really exciting. Easy peasy. When we're talking about re-engaging donors from 2025 or 2024, oftentimes we need to be thinking about what the appropriate upsell is. So not just thanking them, not just giving them some valuable organizational history, but asking them after a couple months or 90 days, hey, would you like to support us in a bigger way? And so these are example numbers. So, not pulled from any specific research study, but it really gives you an idea of who might be accessible, the potential donors, and what an increase might look like if you are engaging those different groups and upselling those different groups. So if you're going to target lapsed donors, maybe you have 100 of them, and they're maybe going to increase, $600 per donor. Maybe that's too much, maybe that's too little. Your numbers will reflect your projections. That potential revenue, $60,000. When you're promoting matching gifts, maybe it reaches about 300 or so donors, new and returning. And maybe that makes them give about $300 more. Well, that gives you $90,000 more as far as revenue by upselling. These last three are probably the most important upsells or upgrades that you can do. So for any of your current monthly or recurring donors, maybe you have 500, maybe you have three, doesn't matter. Engaging with them and asking them to upgrade their gift. Maybe they're giving 25 now and you're asking them to give 50. That can boost revenue by $125,000 in this example. Annual donors is similar. So those folks that show up every year or show up inconsistently, ask them to start a recurring gift or ask them to up their annual contribution. And then, of course, for major givers, there's a smaller pool of them, right? Maybe it's 75, maybe it's 10 potential major donors. Either way, they are going to be able to dramatically increase the amount that they're giving. And so you get a huge return by focusing and upselling your major giving opportunities. Excuse me. So what I'd like to propose to you guys as you're thinking about how to organize yourself for this year is 90 days to raise more. So what does that mean? So we have basically three 90-day periods leading up to coloradogives.org. And I don't know about you, but I always work better by breaking things down into plausible um, to-dos and tasks based on a 3-month period. Because that's really oftentimes the cycle of your fundraising. So what you might do from April to June to get started, of course, hopping out off of this webinar and pulling and analyzing your donor data. So that's number one takeaway from today. Review the past 12 months, identify first time, recurring, lapsed, major donors, segment and prioritize. So who are those potential recurring or major donors? How can we adapt what we're currently saying to our supporters to be more specific for them? That's going to convert them at a higher rate. Early engagement communications. So this is a time in April and June where May and June are pretty high fundraising months. April's right behind them because a lot of events happen then, galas, golf tournaments, things that all can be set up on coloradogives.org. So think of this as your early engagement time period. You should be sending updates, thank yous, impact stories to your top segments so that you're making sure they stay engaged, they feel that love, that affection in that 90-day period. And just while we're talking about donor segments, we don't have to go through this in great detail, but wanted to list out some of the donor segments that you might be thinking about. Major, mid-level, small or micro, current, lapsed participants. So a lot of nonprofits forget this. The people who are showing up in person, the people who are participating, um, tie them in, ask them for support. They are the low-hanging fruit. They have showed up physically for you. Board and volunteers, often overlooked because they're giving their time and love in different ways, but get them engaged, get them sharing their peer-to-peer fundraising page or sharing your mission with their networks so that you can get more awareness and ideally more new and current donors. And then, of course, last but not least, businesses. So they can be sponsors, matching grantors. They can also just be asked to share, right? Businesses can do something so simple. They have a network, they have an online social media following, they have employees. They can just share your campaign. And then we also have special business giving pages or group pages on Colorado Gives that can be an option for businesses to further support you. So lots of different donor segments to consider. It doesn't mean you have to focus on all of them, right? I just want to make that clear. You only have so much capacity, and that's why the goal setting is most important before you start thinking about all this stuff and pulling data, because you want to know what your goals are so the data that you're interpreting is connected to that. All right. So from July to September, really important time period. Everybody's on vacation in July, but that doesn't mean that they're not listening and engaging with your content when they're sitting on the beach with their drink. And so don't lose the connection during these months. So you might do a mid-year data check. So again, pulling those numbers based on the goals that you're setting for yourself in 2026. Also, this is a great time for targeted campaigns, whether it's a summer campaign, whether it's a back to school campaign, whether it's celebrating everybody that volunteered for you over the summer. You know, there's many different types of campaigns that you can run to encourage and continue to engage people during this time period so that you don't pop out of the woodwork for Colorado Gives Day asking them to give. You want to remain top of mind for them, and that's going to increase retention. And then also, this is a great time to really consider re-engaging lapsed donors. So you don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but you do want to see if you can bring some folks back. And then October. So of course, 90 days goes October, November, December, but really a lot of your actions leading up to and in October are really important. So again, pulling those reports. And also really, I think in October, we want you to be pre-thanking folks for whatever activity they did or are going to do for Colorado Gives Day. Remember last year, I was talking about how a pre-thank you email without an ask, just to warm people up, can increase the amount that people are giving. Not necessarily the retention, but when they come back, they're feeling more love because you've pre-thanked them. All right, lots of information there to consider, but hopefully, again, it gives you a jumping off point. It gets your gears turning for what you should be focusing on based on your organization's goals and priorities. So let's pause for another poll. For this one, I want to know, how confident are you in using coloradogives.org data to guide your year-round fundraising? Amazing. People are saying they're confident. People are saying they're somewhat confident. Okay, it's kind of a good split. Somewhat confident is winning right now. I kind of like this. It's like a horse race. All right, awesome. So the winner here is somewhat confident, which we love to hear, followed by very confident. And then we do have about 6% in the not confident, or we haven't reviewed the data yet, which is totally okay. That's what this webinar is for. Let me go ahead and end the poll for us and share results, just so you can take a quick peek. All right. So how does the reporting work? So let's take a quick demo. Before we hop into the demo, I want to provide just some insight into the most frequently asked questions. So a lot of the reporting questions we get are around downloading multiple years of donor data. You can only download 1 year at a time. So you can only download January 2023 to December 2023. You can only download January 2024 to December 2024. And so you can download those years individually, and then you're combining them on a spreadsheet if you did want to do year-over-year analysis. We also get asked a lot about finding the prize incentives from Colorado Gives Day. And so they are in your reporting. And once you download that report, you can check the designation column. So it's listed, the designation column, and you can filter to see the specific transactions that were us over here sending those incentive dollars and prize money to you. So again, to locate any of the prize money from 2025 Colorado Gives Day, you're looking in the designation column. And then our team just wanted to remind you guys that specifically for prize incentives, you don't have to send a federal tax receipt for prize incentives. And so just a reminder there as we're in tax season. Our team also wanted to remind you guys, as you're taking a look at the reports and specifically the prizes, there's also going to be a column that says entered by. Again, that's us. So we are just keeping track that we, Bryce in this case, is entering or sending those prize incentives to you. So you don't need to send Bryce any thank you notes, although that's very nice of you guys. But we are sending that prize funds to you, so you do not have to thank us. We already feel loved and thanked by you. And then the disbursement schedule. So a lot of nonprofits have questions about how disbursement works regarding reports and how they can see what's going to end up in their bank account. So disbursements, as you might know, are dispersed monthly. We batch all of the donations from the previous month, and we're sending it to you based on the bank account that you've set up in your organization page on Colorado Gives. We're sending that to you around mid-month, so about 15 business days from the close of the previous month. And so that's the normal schedule. The exception is December, right? So we try to get all of those amazing funds that you've raised from Colorado Gives Day out quicker. And so you'll see a disbursement before the end of December. And you'll also see one in January for any gifts made after Colorado Gives Day. And so we're getting those out to you as quickly as we can so you have those funds to start the new year. Okay, before we get to Q&A, what I'm going to do is hop off screen here and head to a sample page of a organization. So this should all look familiar to you. This is the organization page. We've updated it. It's an example nonprofit page. We've added an about section. We've had a little short text for the mission. You can add a media gallery and then your summary information. Just a quick reminder, we're logged in as an admin. You can see me up here. I'm going to my Colorado Gives sample nonprofit page, and that's dropping me here on the overview section. Before we jump into reports, I want to remind everybody that if you see any of these in your overview section, you've got to take some action, right? You are not ready to accept donations. And so that often means that there's something not set up within your to-do list. Here you can see on this example page, we haven't set up a bank account. We haven't gone through state compliance yet with the Secretary of State. All easy to do, but oftentimes overlooked when you're excited and trying to get your organization page set up. So make sure to check any of these notifications in the overview section and check your to-dos. All right. So why we're really here, we are hopping into reports. So when I click on reports, logged in as an admin, I can see all of these donation reports. The main one that you're going to be hopping into for monthly downloads is the all donations report. By default, this donations report, which can trip people up, it shows the last 30 days. So if you don't want to see the last 30 days, you do have to take some action. So don't panic. What you do need to do is enter a custom date range. Or maybe you just want to see, okay, what happened in the last week or this year to date so far that I need to catch up on. And so that is probably one of the most important things to use is that time period filter. You can also see recurring, online, offline, refunded donations. And so you do have some control over seeing some specific donation types. You can also, if you have a major donor, you're like, who was that guy that gave us $5,000 during Colorado Gives Day? You can adjust the time period and also adjust the minimum donation. All right. When you're looking at this, it's of course going to give you a summary view and some columns here just to give you an idea of the activity. But as I was saying, you always need to download, always, because that's going to give you the full experience and all of the data points related to each transaction. This is also a live report. So whether you're doing a campaign in June or whether it's for Colorado Gives Day, you can continue to access any of these built-in reports and they're updating in real time, which can really help you to take action, give someone a call, send a personal email, whatever that action might be. You don't have to wait for these reports to be updated. So you're always downloading. Importing offline donations. So you have the ability to add one-off online donations. And this is a lot of times for organizations using coloradogives.org year-round. They want to see more holistically what they're raising online and then capture anything that's coming through the door as a physical check or something like that. If we head back to reports, we can take a peek at recurring donations. And so here you have the ability to see all of the active recurring donations and also the canceled. And both are an opportunity, right? Celebrate those who are active. Check in on them for the first quarter of 2026. Send them updates. And for those who canceled, send them a personal message. Ask to set up a call. Ask how you can further support them, whatever that action may be. When we head to the retention reports, you have a similar capability. So simple to use, but very powerful data that's bubbled up in a couple of clicks. So with retention, you can see who's retained, you can see who's not retained, and then you can have custom date range or specifically Colorado Gives Day or times of the year. And so these reports are very easy to use. Always want to call out that you must download them, see the full information of each transaction coming through coloradogives.org. All right. So we are towards the end of our webinar, and I wanted to make sure that we had a lot of time for questions. And if there aren't that many questions, that's great too. If they're detailed questions and you want to connect with me one-on-one, awesome. I'm so thankful for your guys' time today. All right, Katie, what's going on in the chat, and what are some questions that you think we can answer today live?
Okay, first question is, I can run a report and export emails, but is there a more streamlined way within the Colorado Gives dashboard to mass email certain segments of our donors?
Oh, good question. No. And so right now, coloradogives.org is not a marketing system. So we do have a CRM that's available in a subscription model, and that gives you the ability to message individual and groups of nonprofits, but we do not have a full-fledged like marketing system. What we do have is the ability to integrate with any outside marketing systems, CRMs, QuickBooks, financial systems. And so we do have that ability. And so if you are seriously thinking about leveraging coloradogives.org year round, and you already have some of those systems in place, like a marketing system or CRM, we can push that data easily and seamlessly to those systems for you so you don't have to download. Hopefully that answers your question.
Next question is, I'm curious if that 2024 jump of 24% on Giving Tuesday was at all influenced by the election. Do you measure nonprofit types for the distribution of those gifts?
Do we measure nonprofit type? I see. Yes, we do. We can see and we do measure like the top 10 categories. Some of the changes we saw this year, actually the biggest change we saw was in like education and environmental. So we saw those jump up towards number one, as before they were lower in the list. Do elections affect fundraising? Yes, no, yes. We definitely, when we're launching Colorado Gives Day during November, we're really sensitive to elections and making sure that when we launch our statewide PR stuff, and when we give you schedules for when you should email, that it doesn't conflict with the noise of the election. And so hopefully we're doing a good job to protect the statewide campaign and then also your individual nonprofit campaigns from the noise of an election. But also elections equal passionate, sometimes angry givers, right? So it can negatively affect, it can positively affect. It's kind of that in between measurement that we don't have, but we are hypothesizing that's how it works.
Next question is, this is related to the mid-year data check. Can you explain what is churn in this context?
Oh, yeah. So churn would be someone who hasn't given again, someone who hasn't engaged again. And so they are people who you would consider lapsed. Just another name for a lapsed donor, someone who's gone from one bucket of giving to another bucket of not being engaged, not giving. Good question. And it would be under whatever time period you would want. So if you're measuring Colorado Gives Day, if you're measuring 2026 versus 2025. So yeah.
Next one is, do we have access to the donor's mailing address before our monthly report is sent to us? I like to get written thank yous out within a week or two.
Awesome. Yes, do the written thank yous. Yes, you have access to the address that's they're on their credit card immediately after they make that transaction. So these are live real-time reports. So you can see all of that information. You do need to download it to see the full information in Excel. But yep, keep doing those thank you reports or thank you emails and thank you letters. They make a huge difference. We hear so much just through the support throughout the year. Well, you guys gave us the receipt, meaning coloradogives.org sends the automated receipt. But we didn't hear from the nonprofit. They didn't thank us. They didn't this, they didn't that. So there's a lot of expectations with donors, especially in present day with the ease of technology, that they want to be communicated with directly by the nonprofit after a donation is made. And of course, that sweet time is that, 60 to 90-day period to make them feel the love and ask them to give again. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
Are there any translation opportunities for reaching our Latin community?
Oh, good question. So we currently have Catch-a-Fire, which can help with translations. Uh, I can share that link with you. So these are volunteers that are donating their time to translate. I think there's also a lot of great tools out there, whether they're free or, a small fee. I think it's worth it. I also wonder if, it's not at our foundation, but I wonder if there's other foundations or sources in Colorado where they offer that to nonprofits. That's something I'm going to look up afterward.
Is there a newsletter template we can utilize through Colorado Gives?
Great question. So a couple things about newsletters that I'm learning and we as an organization are all learning together. So we used to do monthly newsletters. We have adjusted that to quarterly newsletters because that's what fits both our capacity and the content as well as the donor need, or excuse me, the reader's needs, in this case, nonprofit admins. So there's been a shift for us. We don't have a template, but what we do have is a training that's specifically on do's and don'ts of newsletters. And one other thing that I'll tell you that I'm hearing just in general from conversations is a lot of nonprofits are rethinking their newsletters because the newsletter is it's just all the content you can stuff in there, right? Well, is that really what the reader wants? I'm not usually opening a full newsletter, but if you're chopping up that content and giving it to them every week or every other week, it allows them to absorb. It allows you to personalize that content. And so consider what a newsletter means to you. It's just another form of communications. So is it priority or are communications around returning donors and recurring givers more of a priority based on your capacity? But yes, we have a training, a webinar training that just focuses on newsletters, and it's the nonprofit resources page.
And then Kelly shouted out Community Language Cooperative is a local Denver business that provides translation and interpretation.
Yay! Thank you. Mystery solved. Lives helped. Thank you.
And then there aren't any other, oh wait, a new question just came in. I was gonna say there aren't any other questions. However, if people want to come off mute and ask questions, they can do that too. But Matt just asked a question. How many
Okay.
years of past data do you recommend we consider/review when assessing our 2026 strategy? Our org has done Colorado Gives for a while, but much of our team is newer, and it would be helpful to know how far back you recommend we look.
Yeah, good question. And we did run some numbers just to see. I think we did it through our Give Again email, like how far back should we go? And so basically, the further back you go, the less probability that people are going to come back. So the way that we are doing it is kind of like 2 to 3 years back. So 2023, 2024, 2025, with the most important ones being the recent 2024 and 2025. So that's how I would do it. Of course, if you're looking for something specific or there was a past campaign that was amazing, you can also look at, those specific details too. Good question. All right. I wanted to also share that, and I had forgotten to mention this before, but as we're wrapping up, when you're looking for the amount that is dispersed to your organization, you're looking at the last month, right? So this last 30 days isn't depending on what day you're looking at it, isn't necessarily going to be accurate to what's getting in your bank account from the disbursement. So I just wanted to remind you that you will need to do something like a custom date range to see, for example, what did I raise in January? Oh, I raised $3,000. That's what I can expect in my February disbursement. And so I just wanted to call attention to that again, also related to that 30-day default. All right, guys. Well, this has been awesome. I hope it's been awesome for you. I think what my goal really was, oops, sorry, today was to give you guys some focus areas so that you could customize your goals, your strategy, and of course, leverage the data that you already have in Colorado Gives to make good decisions that are going to increase your fundraising. So with that, I'll check one more time, Katie. Any additional questions? Nope. I'm
Someone
seeing
in the
people say
chat
thank you. Oh,
asking if the presentation is available. Yes, it is. We'll send it to you.
yes, we will send it to you. Expect it by Thursday. It usually takes us a bit of time to turn it around for you. This was awesome. So great to see everybody. Thank you and happy St. Patrick's Day.